This new Merge NFT collection from Pak sold for $91.8 million. That's right, this little dot right here sold over 266,000 times to over 26,000 people, netting almost $100 million. Now, if you're like most people watching this, you're probably looking at that little dot thinking, what the? And I'm right there with you. So who is this Pak guy and how has he created several successful NFT projects? What is this new Merge NFT that he launched, and should you be investing in Pak NFTs? My name is Devin Cook. Get ready to be amazed and maybe just a little bit confused. And welcome back to DevMoney. So for starters, we gotta ask ourselves the question, who is Pak? Where is Pak? What is Pak?
Why is Pak?
Why is Gamora?
Well, Pak is actually the first NFT creator that did $1 million in NFT sales, which I know right now probably doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a pretty big deal. Pak has been publishing work in the art and design space for at least the last 10 years. And if you go look on Vimeo, you can see some old videos from Pak that showcase his work about 10 years ago. And he's done some big name collaborations as well. And recently, back in April, he partnered with Sotheby's to sell his new The Fungibles collection, which sold for just under $17 million. And a lot of people describe Pak as an enigma, saying that he's really mysterious. And Nifty Gateway, who has done a lot of collaborations with Pak and sold a lot of his NFTs when they launched, describe him as an omniscient designer, developer, and wizard, and say that Pak is something to experience and engage with. And if you see any of Pak's NFTs or his work, you can see that it's really monochrome, really high contrast, really simplistic. And honestly, we don't even know the identity of Pak. It's really just a persona that we see online and on Twitter. We don't even know if Pak is a guy or a girl. And anytime someone has spoken with Pak, Pak uses voice modulators to make his voice sound
weird, kind of different, and you can't tell who he is.
And if you look on Twitter, you can see that Pak has communicated with some pretty prominent people, including even Elon Musk, the meme lord himself. And you can see that a lot of his tweets are just really strange, kind of vague, and leave a lot to the imagination. For example, some of his tweets just say, "I reveal, you claim," or "design is hack," or "let's fix art," or how about "what an unexpected twist." So there's definitely this whole persona about Pak that a lot of people buy into, and probably a lot of people also just are not a big fan of either. Now, that's definitely not telling you everything there is to know about Pak, because honestly we don't know everything there is to know about Pak. But it's safe to say he's very prominent in the NFT space. He doesn't get quite as much press, in my opinion at least, as someone like Beeple, but I think his work and at least his sales are pretty on par with someone like Beeple. So what are some of the past projects from Pak, and have they even been successful, especially with all this cloak and dagger stuff going on? Well, back in April, like I mentioned, he did a collaboration with Sotheby's to launch the Fungible Project that sold for just under $17 million. And there were some really interesting ways that he released this project that really just kind of shows a bit about how he does things. For example, as part of the Fungible Project, there were 4 equilibrium pieces that were given out. And he had to achieve one of 4 designations in order to be given one of these 4 equilibrium NFTs. And the first is the Cryptographer. And basically you were given a cryptographic message that you had to solve from a tweet. You basically had to decipher an audio file to get a string of letters, which then gave you a visual problem of sorts, which then gave you a bit.ly link. And then you were able to receive one of those 4 equilibrium NFTs. And then there was the Hunter. And the Hunter was the one that acquired any of Pak's NFTs on the secondary marketplace for the highest amount. And the influencer title was given to the person that participated in the Pak Was Here hashtag that had the largest social media following. And so Demi Lovato won that and was awarded one of those 4 equilibrium pieces. And then the 4th one was given to the Oracle, who is the person that most closely guessed the total sales of the entire collection that launched back in April with Sotheby's. Now your brain might be bursting because that's just a lot of kind of interesting things to wrap around, and that's a really interesting way to launch an NFT project. And you're definitely not alone in that. It's extremely unique the way he's doing things. And so not only was this Fungibles collection very successful, but he's also released other collections that have been extremely successful as well. For example, when Pak launched the Lost Poets collection, it sold $70 million in NFTs in just 2 hours. They were originally sold for just 0.32 Ethereum and now trade for about 1 Ethereum on OpenSea. And then the Fungibles collection that we were just talking about sold for $500 a pop back in April, and now they're selling it for about 7.7 Ethereum. You also have his Title collection, which is at a 9.5 Ethereum floor. His single gray pixel NFT sold for $1.36 million, and the Switch NFT sold for $1.44 million. So it's safe to say he knows a lot about how to sell NFTs for a lot of money. And not only is Pak in the NFT space, but Pak also has a cryptocurrency called Ash. And Ash has an $85 million market cap cap, and each coin is selling for about $35. And as a way to reward those that hold Ash, Pak likes to airdrop NFTs to the Ash holders. And what's cool is he also tries to reward those that don't hold as much Ash instead of just focusing on those that hold tons and tons of Ash and are the Ash whales. Alright, so what is Merge, this newest project from Pak? Well, Merge is Pak's newest collection. It just launched on December 2nd and sold out by December 4th, and we honestly don't know much about it other than that Merge is going to be a game which is kind of built around this thing called mass. It was sold on Nifty Gateway like a lot of his projects have been, and Nifty Gateway is sometimes perceived as a more prestigious place to sell your NFTs, and that's where they were sold. And with the Merge project, when it launched, you were buying mass, and you could accumulate and buy as much as you wanted, and the more you bought, the bigger mass you got. Hopefully that makes sense. And then with that accumulated mass, you're going to be getting a dynamic NFT. And no matter how much mass you buy, you're only ever going to have one mass token within your wallet. Because if you have a mass token in your wallet and you go to buy another one, both mass tokens are going to combine into one single token that represents the value of both tokens. So obviously if you have a larger mass token, it should be more valuable than a smaller mass token. And there's also going to be 100 secret classes that are dispersed evenly amongst all the mass tokens. And you'll be able to go to mass.black to trade in your mass tokens for Merge tokens. And you're also going to be able to burn your Merge tokens for Ash, and that exchange rate is going to be revealed here in a couple of weeks. And the sale will allow people to buy mass starting at $299, with the price increasing by $25 each hour, and the ending price was $575. And the more mass you bought, the more bonus mass you were rewarded with, because for every 10 mass tokens you bought, you were rewarded with an extra 10% in multiples of 10, meaning that if you bought 10 mass tokens, you got 11, and if you bought 100 mass tokens, you got 110. And there's also going to be a leaderboard that ranks the people with the most mass. The top 5 and the top 100 will get a permanent special class, and 50 random token holders will also get a permanent special class. And again, we don't really know what that means and what these different classes are going to represent or what they're going to do, but that's just all the information we have. And there's also going to be an alpha reward, which will be dynamically rewarded to whoever has the largest mass and will be designated as the alpha mass. And if someone builds a bigger mass than that one, then the alpha reward will change to that new biggest mass. Think of this really like the game Snake if you ever played that as a kid. The one where you maneuver around eating pixels until you get bigger and bigger and you try not to run into your tail. Or the newer implementation of it that you could play on your iPhone where you eat other snakes and the bigger snakes have a bigger advantage. That's kind of similar to how this whole thing works. And one thing to note about this Merge project, since the goal is to accumulate the largest mass and each mass you buy gets burned and added to your existing mass token, that means the total supply of mass is going to be decreasing, which should ideally increase the demand. Now, we don't really know much about how this NFT is going to be used in the future, but what we do know is that more mass is better, and probably holding onto your mass is going to be good as well. And keep in mind that despite how cryptic this is, and despite how much we really just don't know, these still sold for $91.8 million. So it shows that there is definitely demand for this and for the Pak collections. And this collection was the second largest launch in NFT history. The first being the Mutant Ape Yacht Club that sold $96 million, 10,000 tokens, and sold for 3 Ethereum each. And I know that some people will be concerned since there was more than 250,000 tokens totally minted from this project. And so you might be thinking,
how on earth is the demand going to keep up with the supply?
But I'm going to touch on that here in a minute. But first, what is this Ash token that we've talked about a couple times? Well, Ash is an ERC20 token that started with a supply of exactly 0 tokens. And that's because Ash only comes into existence when you burn NFTs on burn.art. And when you burn an NFT from a verified collection, you get a total of 2 Ash. But when you burn Pak NFTs, you get a much better exchange rate, because you used to get 1,000 Ash for each Pak NFT that you burned, and now with the bonding curve, you're gonna get a lower yield than that initial 1,000, but you're still gonna get a much better yield than if you just burned a regular non-Pak NFT. And in the future, Pak will be releasing projects that are bought only on Ash. So I can see Ash becoming a bigger part of this whole Pak NFT universe in the future. But now back to that whole supply-demand issue, since this project minted over 250,000 tokens. Because one of the things that people talk about with NFTs is that the more tokens there are, the less valuable a project will be. People often see lower supply as better. A 1 of 1 is going to be better than a 1 of 5, which is going to be better than a 1 of 10, which is going to be better than a 1 of 100. You get the picture. And 10,000 tokens really has been the gold standard of NFT projects because of CryptoPunks having 10,000 tokens and it being so successful. So you'll often see creators releasing projects that are 10,000 token projects, or sometimes they'll release an 8,000 or a 5,000 token project to try and decrease supply and increase demand. And when creators like Artifact come out and create a project with 20,000 NFTs like they did with the Clone X project, people always talk about there being too many NFTs within that project and it's just gonna hurt the price. And then you get the likes of people like Gary Vee with his new VeeFriends book series tokens coming out that are rumored to have about 150,000 total tokens. So when Pak releases a project with over 260,000 tokens, it makes sense that people talk about there being too many of them. But here's the thing, people always look at NFT projects and think that the supply is the main thing that drives the price. And people can often forget that there's two parts to that graph or that curve. It's called a supply-demand curve for a reason. So tell me this, does Apple have a hard time selling hundreds of millions of phones each year? And the answer is no. There's a massive amount of supply for iPhones, but there's also a massive amount of demand to meet that supply. But if someone were to sell an NFT project with 100 million tokens at launch, people would be extremely worried that the price is just going to drop because of oversupply. But if that same NFT project allowed each one of those 100 million NFTs to redeem a brand new iPhone, well, I think they would probably sell out that collection entirely. Now, the secondary market on that NFT project may be a bit questionable, but you get the point. Supply definitely plays a factor, but as long as the creator of the NFT project can increase demand, they can also increase the price point and the total supply because the equilibrium points moves farther up and to the right on the supply-demand curve. So what should you be doing? Should you be buying Pak NFTs and putting all of your hard-earned savings into them? Well, that's an interesting question, and here's some things to think about. With any NFT project, you really gotta think about what you're buying into. And a lot of people think they're just buying into the art or they're buying into the utility, but really one of the main things that you're buying into is the creator or the person behind the NFT project. Because you may be buying a specific token in a certain project and think that you're just buying into this project, but really you're buying into the future success of that artist or that creator, especially with a creator like Pak when there's just not a lot of details on his projects. With all NFT creators, you're buying into their persona, their success, and their future potential. So think to yourself, if you had seen Kobe Bryant on the court back in 1996 when he first started with the NBA, would you have bought into the Kobe Bryant brand? Now, of course, you're sitting there thinking, well, obviously that's a dumb question, but that's because you know how Kobe Bryant turned out. So the question you have to pose to yourself when looking at someone like Pak or any other NFT creator is you gotta ask yourself, where do I see this NFT creator going in the future? What is his career gonna be like? Is he gonna be more successful than he is now? And will he provide more value and utility to his current NFTs as well as more value to his future NFTs? So if you ask yourself those questions and you think the project creator is overrated, well, then you can skip out on that project. And if you think the creator is underrated, well, then that could be potentially a great investment decision. Thanks for watching. Check out this video right here, and I'll see you in the next one.